So another question I got from a recent video that I did when I showed some of the items in my collection was about this brick. This brick that is from Yost Field House, or Yost Ice Arena as it is today, during a construction project, and you can see that video for the story behind that. But I mentioned there was some background specifically around the bricks they used for Yost Field House, and that information, at least I first found it in a book from a guy named Soderstrom, who wrote a book called The Big House, and the subtitle is Fueling Yost and the Building of Michigan Stadium. And I actually I think I've met Dr. Soderstrom, but I interviewed him, and I'll provide a link to that interview. But I remember one of the great things he told me was when he was trying to find a publisher for this, one of the early publishers or book companies said, no one wants to read about a stadium, the construction of a stadium. Like, are you crazy? Which I have to laugh. And certainly, I don't think this ended up on the New York Times bestseller list, but believe me, there are a lot of people interested in the history of Michigan Stadium. People are married there. People spread their ashes there. Probably not supposed to. I know I've heard multiple people tell that story, and it's more akin to a religious place than just simply a structure that that book publisher just didn't understand. So I think Dr. Soderstrom had a lot of success with the book. I believe he still does for the Alumni Association or for the athletic department tours of Michigan Stadium. I haven't been on it. I'd love to do it one day. I'd love to give a tour one day, or at least get some tips from him on some of the things to talk about. But this is a great book. I'll provide a link to the Big House. But this is where I want to get back to the brick. This is one of those bricks, and in particular, Dr. Soderstrom breaks down some of the issues that Fueling Yost himself had and demands he had for the bricks. By some of the estimates in the book, there were between 1 million and 1.5 million or so bricks ordered for the construction. The construction started in about, I think it was September 1922. It was completed about a year later. It was dedicated when we played a team from the Marine Academy from Quantico with a beautiful ceremony. There's good stories about that. But one of the challenges was around the bricks, in particular around the brick layers. So the first thing was, Yost had a particular style of brick back in his home in Nashville, where he lived really for the first couple decades when he was at Michigan. And I believe the facade of his house had a very particular color of red, which you don't associate with Michigan, but if you've ever been on State Street, the buildings have a brownish or reddish hue. Well, he wanted the facade, or the outside of the field house, to be red. The inside, he described it as buff, but if you've ever been inside the ice arena, you can see the walls. They're more of a subdued, milder tone. He demanded, and he would inspect the train loads of these bricks as they came in, that a certain proportion of them were red. And he threatened to send, I don't know if he actually sent any train cars back, I don't remember that detail, but he was very adamant about it. And we know this because Yost personally saw the project, and we have copies of letters back and forth with Yost and the construction companies. The other issue was with bricklayers, finding them. The estimate for all this brickwork was way under what they originally proposed when they kind of came back to it. But they did complete the work in 1923. It's a beautiful structure. Hats off to the athletic department for they did upgrades a few years ago and reopened those windows inside the ice arena. But a fun story, and I definitely recommend Dr. Soderstrom's book, The Big House. Thanks.